Good morning, folks. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday, and welcome to another episode of Tea and Coffee with Paula and
Jay. Good morning, everybody. Happy smiles on this side of the table. Everybody's in good mood. Looking forward to this episode with Regina.
Yep.
She's back.
Always great information from Regina Watteel. We're looking forward to it.
Thanks for saying the last name for me, Watteel. Back into my mouth. I'm bad with names. Everybody knows that. In fact, people came up to me at the event, AGM, and says, "You are bad with names." I'm like, I know. I'm horrible. The best thing that's going for me is everybody's wearing name tags right now, and I can take a moment or so to read it.
Bob.
Boo-ob.
Boo-ob. Ah, bless you. That's also been an issue you've had, but oh well. You should try.
Paul.
Paul.
Good morning, everybody. Hope you're well. I'm not so well. I got a cold. One thing about having a little son who likes to hug everybody, brings it all home. He brings it all home.
Well, you also did come back from a conference for 2 days where you were hugging people and shaking people's hands too.
You could a couple hugs.
You could be infecting us with stuff.
No, Jacob had it. It's the same thing. It's just a little nose cold. Nothing much after that. Just a little nose cold. He had it. I blame the UCP AGM.
Yes. You just met like hundreds of people and shook a bunch of people's hands.
It's the healthiest group of people you're going to meet. Mostly unvaccinated. Definitely take care of themselves. They don't eat much crap. It's a good group of people for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see. I'm just got low energy levels today. Thankfully, that I'm not feeling ill or anything, and the other one is feeling okay too. So we're trying to ward it off.
What's the update for Martin?
What is the update for Martin?
How's the pig doing?
Oh, well, living his best life.
Did you mind the cold weather? And how's his water?
Your water is fine. So, folks, those who have outside animals, we came across a really cool, inexpensive water heater. You pop it in, you got to keep it covered, and it's been doing great with the trough. Now he's had liquid water the entire cold snap, and now he's loving life. he's loving life. He doesn't mind the cold. When I've been getting him up, he's been getting out. So even when it was minus 25, he didn't struggle. So it was just that other day he seemed to be like, maybe he partied too hard the night before.
We've all been there at least once or twice in our life. That's when you get really religious and you start praying to feel better. But it's good that he's going well.
Yeah,
the water issue's good, and that was a bit of a concern because how else were we going to keep him hydrated?
Yep. And then this afternoon, my friend and I are going to be going out to go check out another type of feed that we're going to be giving the animals. So we'll be heading to Wahlberg for that.
Notice how she owns the friend. It's our friend. We have a friend.
She's my friend
of mine. I own her.
My friend first.
Firsties. Mm-hmm. Firsties, besties.
Yep. Yeah, she's a good lady. I like her.
Yep. And we learned and met her through being a fan of the show. So her father's a big fan. Not going to mention Martin's name out loud when I'm out to dox Martin, but Martin joined us at Canada Day celebration, brought his family with us, and lo and behold, kind of like all paired up. Jacob had a friend, JJ had a friend, you had a friend, I got a friend. It was kind of cool.
Yep, they're good folks. And I see he's in the chat. Morning, Martin.
Why are you doxing him?
He doesn't mind.
No, Martin's awesome. We can't wait to see him again.
We miss you.
We do miss you.
We miss you.
Yeah. We'll see him soon enough, though.
Yeah, but no, we got some mild temperatures, so much so that the snow is melting outside. But it's going to freeze a little, so watch out for ice on the roads, folks, for today. But yeah, we've got some last-minute projects to do. My wood pile, half of it fell over.
What?
Yeah, didn't you notice? Come out right in front of the door. Blum, blum. 3 of them have kind of tipped. They're leaning across each other, so...
It's okay. It's wood. You're just going to grab some as you move along.
Yeah.
You're not really drying it out anymore. It's pretty dry already.
Yeah.
It's fine. Actually, I'm going to go knock them all over just to frustrate you a little bit because you worked hard at making those little towers.
It would frustrate me. I'm not going to lie, but yeah. So we just got to do a little bit more on the skirting. Going to set the dogs' water up as well because we've got a water heater for the dogs too. Sort out their issue. So I'm going to be working on that this morning before we head out. And you got another show coming up at 10.
Yeah, I think it's Truth Talk with Corey and I forget his dad's name. But yeah, I'll be on that at 10 o'clock. I'm not sure if it's live or recorded, but check it out. And I was on Political Orphans yesterday with Nico and Rob and others. So you can check that out. We'll talk about that in a moment.
Yeah, but otherwise, just lots of little things to get done because the cold is coming back on Thursday, I believe. Thursday, Friday. We're having a minus teens again as opposed to like +1 or -2. So
All right, so that's her tip to tell me to hurry up and get a couple more things done.
And my
'cause
light above my desk has stopped working too, so you got to do the interior lights as well. Love you.
little light bulb above her head just went out, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to try and fix that. You know, we're upgrading our lighting inside. I know it's time. We had it for a while. Martin's probably like, "Come on, guys."
Yeah.
But good news is generator's good. Everything else is good.
Oh, yeah.
Everything worked great. So let's go ahead and get on with the show.
Yep. Yippers. Go ahead. How was the
Absolutely.
show? How was the show yesterday at 6 p.m. Mountain, 8 p.m. Eastern?
It was fun because it was a conversation about the AGM, Danielle Smith, MOU. Boy, Alberta is a place to be for news right now, especially political news. There's a lot going on. Newsakic's petition has been certified. We are heading into definitely an interesting year. But watch that episode. I had Nadine Wellwood and Rob Anders, the former MP out of Calgary. He's a good guy. He's sharing a bunch of information. He's also close friends with Danielle Smith for many moons. So he understands her well. He was there at the AGM. And look, at the end of the day, Danielle Smith is the leader of the UCP party. She has a lot of support. We expect a lot from her, and that's a very conservative thing to do, is expect a lot from your leader. Hold them accountable. Danielle is not under any push to leave at all.
Yeah.
The party is very united, even though the press will have you believe otherwise. But as a good conservative does, they express their opinion and voices. And at certain points throughout the weekend, that's exactly what happened, including with being displeased for certain things like the MOU, unity within Canada, and other things as the winds are changing since she's been elected. Things are changing in Alberta and sentiments changing strongly. So so it was a great conversation about all that. You were watching it?
Yeah, I was watching it, and I was amused by certain comments from Nadine because she's got no patience at all for our premiere. But she's expressing a lot of opinions that people have, some concerns, and yeah, there's nothing wrong with highlighting these concerns, and then let's see how they get addressed as time goes on.
Yeah, and she's fair though. Like she's not anti Danielle Smith. She's not just a disruptive criticism. It's constructive criticism.
For
She
sure.
knows her well. Nadine ran and won the nomination for her riding, but was removed by the UCP board for one reason or another. This happens. Happening more though. I understand they're not going to be doing that anymore. It's the people choose, the people get going forward. So maybe we'll see Nadine back on the stage of MLA. Possibly, we'll see. But she was fair. I think she was fair. I don't think she was being rude in any way, shape, or form. But she also represents a large group of people who have this very similar sentiment, which is they expect more from her. They want Danielle to be stronger and firmer, and don't worry so much about Ottawa and focus more about Alberta. There's a group that absolutely feels that way. We're very adjacent to that group. We definitely feel the same way too. We want to see more strength and more fight for Alberta versus trying to make Canada work, try and make Alberta work. Working Alberta could help Canada, and we'll see where it goes when it comes to independence. But and then Rob, he's always got a lot of good information. He knows basically all the players for the last 30 years.
Yeah.
Who's been involved in various things. He's able to pull up the names and the history like crazy. That guy's awesome. And of course, Nico and Rob, his co-host. So there's two Robs, Rob Anders and Rob Ambrose. Very good. Rob Ambrose is excellent at trying to learn more things. He wants to understand the subject more. So he asks excellent questions. Carbon capture was one thing he was trying to figure out and understand a bit more. And of course, Nico has his opinion. He kind of admitted he broke up with Danielle Smith. So prior to the MOU announcement, he was a big fan. And then after the MOU announcement, less of a fan. And trying to figure out, is this 5D chess or was it political suicide for her to go ahead and make that step? So I think we shared some more information with him from the AGM. And he might be a little bit more understanding that there may be more going on here than meets the eye.
There always is. I would say there always is more going on behind the scenes than what the public have been made aware of, what's announced to them. However, I personally believe that more could be done to make Alberta first in the Premier's eyes. And I'm currently not seeing that as strongly as I used to.
Yeah. And also, hey, welcome back, Trevor. Look, we really enjoy your chats. you were very civil, very nice. We don't have to agree on everything, but welcome back.
Yep.
And yeah, I think we picked him up through Nico's show because he's very active in the chat there too. So welcome back, Trevor. I really appreciate it.
You.
And I do agree with you. We should be expecting more from our reps, not just our leaders.
Mm-hmm.
That is something I think Canadians are a little soft on. Two things. One, when you elect somebody to be a representative, you should be electing them for their ability to represent, not their values and not their opinions and not what they want to do or their ambitions. They should be able to represent you.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's called representative. And then the second part is we don't really hold them accountable. Once they're elected, we focus more on the leader and what is the party doing, and not necessarily so much what is our rep doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when was the last time we reached out to Andrew Bochenko? Well, I did to have him on the show, but to complain, not often. So maybe we got to focus a little bit more on making sure our reps are representing.
And I want to highlight that was even something that you ran on when you were running here in Alberta, to say that, look, you're not just going to see me once every 4 years. Jason wanted to have meetings regularly within town to say, like, hey, what is up with, what do our constituents want? What do they need? What are their issues, so that you could try to have them addressed. And that was a platform that you ran both federally and locally here for council, to say, like, look, I'm here for you. I represent you. So I'm not going to be hiding away.
Yeah. And when I first started as an independent candidate in 2022, a lot of people ask me, well, where do you stand on this issue? What about this issue? And I'm like, well, the question is, where do you stand? Because that's where I have to represent. And I really think it's irrelevant what I think and what my beliefs are, because I shouldn't be bringing those forward and trumping the will of the people. A lot of people really resonated with that. They really wanted that. But as you saw in the federal election, it wasn't about representation. It was about stopping the Liberals with everything we've got. And then on the municipal level, we're still pretty fresh, pretty new to a lot of households.
Yeah.
I did quite well compared to where we could have been if we didn't put in that effort and didn't get our name out there. But there may be some more opportunities in the future politically. I definitely want to represent and properly represent. Trevor's definition of represent, and get out there and do that. Yeah,
and this is a side note. I chatted with 2 women yesterday while I was out on my travels, who were really, really pleased with our turnout. And they said, considering you were going against a very old Nate within the area, they were really, really pleased. I was like, yeah, no, I was as well. And you helped me correct the math, because I'd said I was 140 votes away. And he said, actually, no, it's 70. I was like, yes, it's 70, which then equals 35 households. So yeah, I was really, really pleased, and I'm certainly not disheartened by it. It just shows that for a first attempt, getting the name out there and getting the message out there, there are people who are very responsive to that and want to change.
Agreed. And what we ended up doing, or at least what I ended up doing with the council one, is I dropped him below 50% support. So he actually has like 46% support right now, where he had something like 60% before, or even higher. The people are paying attention. They definitely want good representation. And next time around, if it's 2 of us running on that ballot, I don't think he's going to be as successful. So far, he hasn't had a great start to his term. He's tried to shut down conversations at the council meetings. He didn't want the public speaking without giving him advance notice, things like that. It didn't work. The council shot that down. But we'll be paying more attention, stay more involved in our community. And the provincial level, potentially new nation level, things are very, very heating up. There's a lot of things going on there.
Yeah. And what I will also recommend is go to your local council meetings, go to your school trustee meetings. I admit I didn't go to the first one because it was the last day of really good weather that we had, fell on the same day, and we just worked ahead to get projects done. But otherwise, come the December one, I'll be there in January and so on, because I plan to ensure that our new representatives represents us and see what they have to say when it comes to new things coming down the pipeline for the school board.
I need to cough. There we go. Now, welcome to the Levine Show. When you drive home, drive to work. Good morning, everybody. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into the news. Let me put the 2 of us on.
Just the 2 of us.
Just take a look.
It fell over like our wood.
A little bit. Could be. The world is tilted. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the news. We push this button. There we go. There's us again.
Us again.
It's kind of weird to watch. I'm not a fan of watching me, so I will move on. But Derek Smith from The Unacceptable Fringe was an excellent episode yesterday. Check him out. He's another commentator, very popular on YouTube, very vocal, very honest, had some good ideas about what might be going on. He kind of agrees with me that it might be a good time for an election, but this came up yesterday after the show. Not everybody agrees that this would be a good time for an election. In Alberta, we're rezoning our ridings. So there's some
Again?
changes. No, that was federal.
Okay.
Provincial
Oh,
rezoning.
I get you.
Yep. And this may cause new seats to be opened up, like brand new ones. So my understanding is this spring that's going to come out. There's going to be a nomination process going out. So they're not ready for an election. So basically the information I got is it's not time. They're not going to be able to do an election this quick. The earliest they could do it is in the fall, which is basically 1 year out of the main election too. So we'll see. We'll see where things are. But he and I kind of agreed that this would be a good thing because of all the recalls. Another thing is it doesn't look like the recalls will be successful. So even though there's a whole bunch of recalls collecting signatures, it doesn't look like they're going to be successful.
Because the whole point of a recall is that you're also meant to have the receipts to go with it on why you want someone to
Correct.
not just because you don't like them.
Correct. So that might be an excellent thing. While these recalls are trying to be done, they all fail. And then, people can understand who was behind it.
Yeah.
Who was the one motivating it. And maybe we'll see some consequences for wasting people's time and Alberta's taxpaying money because recalls cost Alberta election some money. So we'll see where things go. So here's the question that I had for Danielle Smith on Saturday. I'm going to play it for you all because we'll talk about that one right now. Let me go ahead and get this queued up and go. Good afternoon, Premier. Jason Levine of The Levine Show. Nice to see you again. Recently, you had a comment on a press conference about independence where you were asked about independence, and you were very clear that your mandate for your election was a sovereign Alberta within a united Canada. And you said if there was a referendum, a successful referendum, that may provide you with a new mandate. Yesterday, you saw the reception Jeffrey Rath got. Let's say it was warm. And if there was a successful mandate provided to you, would you follow through with an independent mandate?
Well, I think there's a lot before we would ever get to that. I mean, first of all, Thomas Lukasik started a petition campaign. He got 450,000 signatures or so. They're in the process of validating those signatures. So wait to see the outcome of that. That would be one potential referendum question. I know that Jeffrey Rath's group is in court right now to try to get affirmation on their question. I think they're expecting a result on that by the end of the year. So I'm watching for the result of that. And then if they're able to get signatures, it's a significant number, 177,000. And then if putting it to Albertans, they'd have to get a clear majority on a clear question. Like there's a lot of barriers. So you might have to ask me if any of those milestones get met. But my job has been, I felt all along, is to give Albertans confidence that the country works again, that we can negotiate with the federal government and get an outcome that benefits us and benefits Canada. And I know there's still a little bit of skepticism, evidently, about whether or not I asked the question yesterday. I think we can be confident that the country works better today than it did 2 days ago. Not everyone in that room agreed with me, but I think more did in the room today. And that's my job, is to make sure that the people see that I'm trying, that we're doing whatever we can to be a partner and to meet the federal government partway. But you need a dancing partner, right? They need to meet us partway too. It's pleased to see on this first step that happened, but there's a lot more to go.
What are your thoughts on that answer? First, the question. It was whether or not, if she gets a new mandate, is she going to be as strong as she's been on the current mandate, even though the tides have changed? She's been firm on it. Will she be firm on the next one? Would she take up the independent mandate?
Yeah, well, we've spoken about this privately because when you first brought it up, and yeah, I would love for her to be as strong-willed as she is on the new mandate, which is potentially a referendum that she currently
the results of referendum.
Right now. But my response is mirroring a lot that I've seen in the chat over the last couple of days, is that answer the question. It was a very non-answer. And I love this one. Can't even answer a simple question.
Well, here's the thing. You're right. I didn't get a yes or a no. Okay. There was no either. She didn't say no, I wouldn't. No, and she didn't say yes, I would. She did what politicians kind of have to in this position.
Ever the optimist is my husband.
It's not the optimist, realist. I'm going to use realist. Optimist would be, I think she'll do it, and I think she's great. That would be the optimist. The realist is, well, what can she say? You can't really say much at this stage because I don't want her to sway if there's a new mandate. I want her to be just as firm as she's being right here
for
now.
sure.
So if we get an independence mandate to her, we get the vote in. What I wouldn't want to hear her saying is, well, I'm not for it. I don't want her to talk
Yeah,
like that.
no, it doesn't matter.
I want her, and also this is another thing that Derek Smith brought up that I think was genius, is you don't actually want the government being the one that brings us forward. You want the people to bring us forward. But I want her to just drive the parade, lead the parade, whether she likes it or not. I don't even care if she likes it or not. I want her to drive and lead that parade because that's what a leader's supposed to do, represent, right? We talked about it at the beginning of the show. Don't really care if she likes independence or not. That's not really my concern. My concern is, can she lead us through it? Can she represent us if we give her a new mandate? So not so much the optimist as the realist, understanding the position she's in. She can't say yes or no at this stage. It's the people's choice. If she believes it's the people's choice, she can't take a position.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm going to go with that. But she didn't say no, and she did lay out the terms, kind of like an MOU.
Yeah.
She kind of laid out, once you do this, and then that, and you have this, and then that, come and ask me again, and I will.
Yes.
I will go ask her again when we get to that point.
Yeah, Jason's memory is pretty good.
It is. It's a haunting one sometimes, though. Sometimes I wish it wasn't the way it was, but a blessing and a curse all at the same time. But I do want to kind of highlight here the respect we now have built with press. Okay. So inside that room, it was all legacy, including, well, not including, plus Rebel and Western Standard and Levine Show. There wasn't full of influencers and other people online. We've moved into the respected media category. And I'm glad because we're doing our hard work there to try and be honest and bring the truth forward. And at least our work's being recognized to the point where we get the media pass. We get invited to these things, and we got access to the premiere and others.
And as a side note, apparently that clip was on Shadow Davis last night.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Well done, Shadow. I had no idea. I had no idea. I wonder what his comments were. I wonder if he was strong or firm or understanding. Be curious. But it's definitely making the rounds. So thank you to everybody. And we see our lovely guest. We're just getting ourselves finished up with the news. See you in about 7 minutes. So the breaking news yesterday, Elections Alberta, the Thomas Usakic, Alberta Forever Canada petition has been certified, which means they went through the random sample of the signatures, verified them, made sure people signed it, they're real, all that kind of stuff. It reached the 95% confidence level. So let me go ahead and read this breaking news to you. Breaking news, Usakic petition certified. It could trigger a referendum on Alberta's future. Elections Alberta has officially validated Thomas Usakic's Citizens Initiative petition entitled Alberta Forever Canada. With 404,293 verified signatures, the petition easily surpassed the 10% threshold required under Alberta law. The proposed referendum question, do you agree that Alberta should remain in Canada? Under the Citizens Initiative Act, the legislature must now consider whether the petition should ultimately result in a provincial referendum. Just keep in mind, his was a policy question, not a constitution question, which means it doesn't necessarily trigger a referendum, but certainly can. And his application asks for a referendum. So it's heading in the direction of referendum, and it may not be the one that turns into a referendum. That could still be the APP one. But either case, here are the steps. Here's the key point. The government initiative referendum asking whether Alberta should remain in Canada inevitably opens the door to a province-wide debate on separation. Whether intended or not, and by the way, he's shifting his wind right now, this petition forces elected officials to confront the very question they've spent years trying to avoid. Should Alberta stay in Confederation or chart its own path? Next steps required by law. The Speaker must table the proposal once the legislature sits. We'll be paying attention to that. In 10 city days, the government must move to refer it to committee. That committee then has 90 days to recommend one of the two things. A, reporting back to the Assembly, or B, sending the proposal to Cabinet to call a referendum. If a referendum is approved, it must be held on or before October 18, 2027. That's not a typo. That's the election date. So this is the latest. So on or before October 18th, 2027, Danielle on our show said spring, summer, this referendum's
Yeah.
coming up for 2026. So it could be way before this. Bottom line, this petition does not guarantee a referendum, but it forces the question into the legislative process and onto the political stage. And once the question, should Alberta remain in Canada, is formally on the table, so too is a possibility of a historic referendum on separation. So whether he knows it or not, or wanted to or not, or accepts it or not, Thomas Sakic may
Yeah.
be the father of independence for Alberta.
That's a pub quiz question right there.
Yeah. Who initiated the independence of Alberta? Like we can ask this question in 2029 or something. Thomas Sakic.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see where this goes, but it's done. That stage is done. This is now moving forward. All that hard work is done. And APP may not need to do anything. They're still moving ahead with their petition and their question. The court is, like you heard Danielle say in that clip, she's going to, that question is going to be decided on next month or this month. Sorry, we're in December now. So in this month. So as we move along with the news, there's a couple faces you're not a fan of.
Yeah.
So we got to give credit where credit is due. If you're on the podcast driving, lucky you, you don't have to see this picture. But it's Trudeau and Carney. I used AI to get this done, pointing down at the headline from CTV News, which says Food Bank use is at an alarming number in Canada. Here's how you can help. So my little image here says, we did this. And they're pointing down, all proud of themselves. And my post is, give credit where credit is due. Congratulations, Justin Trudeau and Mark Carney, for raising food bank use to alarming numbers. It took a tremendous amount of work to destroy the once great Canada. They say Canadians will wake up when the bread lines start, ready to wake up, because we're getting to that point. Many Canadians can't feed themselves now. So we'll see where this goes. More news that came out yesterday. Oh, boy. Canada just, like, you thought it was bad, but they find ways to make it worse. Canada, well, this is one time I wish I was wrong, because my original post, and I'll bring this up quickly here, is reminder, Justin Trudeau resigned and we got Mark Carney, and something tells me Stephen Guilbeault replacement will be even worse. Oh boy, I hate when I write. It turns out I was correct when I warned that Stephen Guilbeault's replacement will be even worse. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Miller is back. The same Mark Miller who claims to be Christian, but says we don't need protections from church burnings. And he also thinks the Bible's full of hate. I forgot that little point in here. And also used the Bible and Quran when sworn in as parliamentary secretary. He is now the Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture and Minister responsible for official languages. What could go wrong?
He swore on the Quran.
Yeah, see, there it is right there.
Yeah.
He did both. He did the Bible and the Quran. And this is when he became parliamentary secretary. So this is when he entered the parliament. What was the date on this? January 30th.
If you're not a Muslim, why would you swear on the Quran?
But it's right here. He says, this is his post.
Yeah.
Sworn in as parliamentary secretary today, chose a Bible and a Quran in solidarity with Quebec's Muslim community. Quebec Mosque attack is his tag. There's your answer. This is our Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture. And Minister responsible for officials. Share them.
I think it's completely disrespectful to the Quran and to Muslims. The whole point of swearing on a holy book, whichever you choose, the Quran, the Bible, Torah, is the fact is you believe in it, you're swearing to it, you trust in it. If you're not a Muslim, why would you swear on the Quran? Like, if you're not a Christian or a Catholic, why would you swear on the Bible?
So you suggesting you managed to upset everybody?
Yeah.
Well, this is our...
I'm a bit of a Karen right now. I'm offended on behalf of Muslims that he that he went and swore on the Quran. Well, I think that's insulting.
You are Lebanese. You do have Arabic ties. Yeah. And you definitely have a different view of the world, which I love. But he's our Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture and Minister responsible for official languages. Are we going to get another official language? What is our identity and culture? And this is the guy in charge of it. So, yeah, it actually got worse. This is one of the guys where you say, well, I kind of wish Stephen Guilbeault didn't step down because he didn't do this. But anyways, folks, I was kind of highlighting that it can get worse, and it did get worse. So I'll save the rest of the news because we got our lovely guest here today. Let's go ahead and bring her on. Good morning, Regina. How are you?
Good morning.
Can you hear us? We don't have audio from you. Yeah, we don't have audio from you. Just go ahead and check under the settings, your audio mic, and make sure you have the right one selected. But we don't have audio from you.
Yeah, and while you're doing that, I will share in the chat the links that you gave us to put out there.
Yep. Yeah, go ahead and get those ready. And let me go and see if I can bring up some of those links as well. Regina, as you know, is author of Fistman's Fraud,
Yeah.
and has done a lot of work on exposing truth, making sure that people understand it, and using data. These are not opinion pieces. These are truth pieces, data pieces. So as we're waiting for her audio, I don't know if you're on Chrome. If you're not on Chrome, please jump over to Chrome. Chrome works better. And your phone may be an alternate if your laptop audio is not connecting. There'll be some options there.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and see what we got here. Yeah, here's our paper. I'll get ready to share this. Oh yeah, we still don't have audio from you. And what I may do is pass you her phone number to give her a ring. Maybe give her some tech support and I can finish up the news.
Yep, sure.
All right, so Regina, stay around. We're going to reach out to you. Oh, yes, do that. Try Chrome first. Yeah, Chrome certainly works better. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll jump back into the news as we wait for that. All right, back to my little face here. And
Your little face.
My little face. Here we go. Get this tab, bring it back. All right, as we're waiting for Chrome to connect with audio, Elizabeth May. Gotta stop drinking. It really does. She's known for this. She's now come out and said it was a mistake to vote with the Liberal budget. Main reason she's complaining is because of the MOU with Alberta. She thinks that Carney can't be trusted. Really? That's what it took?
Yeah.
Read his book. Anyways, Elizabeth. I posted here, this must be the most expensive mistake in Canadian history. Let me guess, Elizabeth, you thought they would work with you? An $80 billion mistake should mean an automatic resignation. Like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
What a thing to be saying at this stage. Canadians will be paying for that one. She was so proud of herself. I've got the balance of power. And she pretty much did. I guess she voted the other way. The budget would have not passed. We would have had an election. Mm-hmm. Alberta might be in a much better position. We'll see. But, well, we can't see now.
Yeah.
But what a fool. What an absolute fool. I hope her constituency is paying attention to this. They're not happy with her. Because of her, there's some generational debt that we're now accumulating. One of the worst budgets, not even budgets, the deficit spending in Canadian history. I created this little comic yesterday because I wanted to remind people. So if you see this floating around somewhere else, this is the origin, because I used AI to make this. At least one other person grabbed it and started to run with it, which is fine. But I wanted to do another Alberta independence reason, number 1796. The hostility towards Alberta isn't new. It's a part of the Liberal Party's political NDA. During the 1980 federal election, Liberal strategist Keith Davey famously summed up the party's attitude with the line, "Screw the West, we'll take the rest." That mindset went on to shape the National Energy Program, the economic devastation of the 1980s, and decades of federal policy that treated Alberta as a resource to be harvested, not a partner to be respected. 45 years later, boy, I feel old when you say that. About the 80s. Nothing has changed. Ottawa still blocks Alberta's pipelines, seizes Alberta's revenues, dismisses Alberta's industries, and mocks Alberta's values. The same hostility that existed in the 1980s is alive and well today, baked into a political culture that sees the West as expendable. Trusting Ottawa after generations of this abuse isn't optimism, it's denial. And in its strong and free Alberta, we would write a new history, one built on Alberta's values, Alberta's prosperity, and Alberta's future. Free from the political contempt, historical baggage, and Eastern power structures that have held this province back for far too long. And then the comic says 1980 elections, screw the West, we'll take the rest. Liberal badge on the guy, and tried our best to get Keith Davey on that one. But anyways, if you see that floating around, there's the origin story.
Yes.
Where it came from. All right, let's try this again. I think she's going to be good. She's got a big smile. Do we hear you now?
Nope.
No. So maybe it's not your browser. It could be your microphone or the one that's selected. So let's go ahead and try this. I'm going to give the phone to Paula,
Mhm.
our lovely little tech support lady. And here she is. Yeah,
Now?
just go ahead and connect. Oh,
Oh,
yes.
there you
Yeah,
are.
you got it.
All right.
The mere threat that I was going to be
Yeah,
calling you.
yeah. When Paula gets on the phone, people get worried. But yes, we got you back now.
Perfect.
Sorry.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. Yeah.
Great.
I'm a little tired, but good. How about yourself?
Same.
Well, we're 2 hours earlier than you, so yeah, same boat.
A little tired.
But go ahead and find her X handle and throw it in there.
I'll put it
Yep.
there again. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, and yeah, chance to reconnect. But Regina, thank you so much for the hard work that you're doing. Thank you for coming on the show again. Big fan of you for a long time, and our audience loves you. When I mentioned you were coming on, there was a bunch of hearts sent, and people are very excited to have you here and hear from you, which is lovely. So other than being tired, how is everything for you on your front? Because I know you put a lot of effort into this. This is basically a full-time job for you.
Yeah, I spent most of the year working on this, actually. So I didn't do as much social media as I was doing before, but I keep up with things. But yeah, when I'm working on things, I tend to put all my effort into it. So I've been a little bit quiet, and of course, there's lots always going on the home front. So I'm actually very relieved to have this preprint out. Very relieved. So.
Yes, no, great job. Have you gotten some feedback from it yet? Let's start with the critical feedback. Have you received any of that yet?
Well, I've been actually busy doing a few presentations for individuals. I've been contacting lawyers, actually, because I think it can help with some legal cases. Most of my time was spent trying to get this preprint up and running. The downloads have been pretty good. It's very important for people to take a look at this. It's very important for Canada in general, for our rights, but even has global relevance. So far, I think there's been about 870 downloads, which may not seem like a lot, but it actually is very good for just having this preprint out for about a week to 10 days in a fairly like a smaller server. That's actually a really good amount of downloads. But yeah, if we can push that number higher, it would be great. That's
and it's all in the chat
number one
as
thing.
well.
Yeah.
Okay, so explain to us what it means by being on the server, the downloads. Like, is this published? Is this being accepted? Is it being reviewed? What's going on with it at this stage?
Okay, so I wrote a research paper, and the intention there is to get it peer-reviewed and hopefully published in a peer-reviewed journal. That process can take many, many months. So in the meanwhile, we can put up our research on a preprint server so that the public can see the research and I can get feedback on that research. And it allows the public to see this right now instead of waiting the 4, 5, 6 months or more for it to come out in a peer-reviewed journal. So this hasn't been peer reviewed. I have submitted it to a journal, not a Canadian journal, because I do not feel there's any chance at all of getting published in a Canadian journal, because it does dismantle the evidence that was used for justifying vaccine mandates and passports. And given my work with the fraudulent modeling done by Fisman and University of Toronto researchers, it's pretty clear to me that the Canadian institutions are not interested in hearing the evidence. So I have gone to an international journal. So that's where it sits right now. But even before that, this preprint can be very, very useful I believe can be very, very useful for legal proceedings and for individuals who are still in this fight against, for example, employer mandates and that type of thing, because my preprint 100% uses official public health reports, published public health, published COVID-19 surveillance data. Every single thing I say in there can be verified with official reports. So that in and of itself is very strong and very useful for individuals.
Excellent. And what I'm going to do is I'm bring this report up. So when you get the 600 or 800 downloads, is that because I access it, that counts as one, or people actually have to download it? Maybe they have to log in or something. Like, how does that number get calculated? Being a
So,
statistician, you should be able to help me with that one.
so that's just the number of unique downloads. So those are downloads from unique individuals. So if a person looks at this report, 5-6 times on the server, it doesn't count as a download. It has to be like unique downloads. There is a counter there for views, and I think the views is closer to 4,000.
Okay.
So about 870 unique downloads. And again, that's very good for just having it out there for a week to 10 days. This is also, would show I think the peer review journal that I sent it to, that there is significant interest in this work. So that also helps. I think it may not impact whether or not they publish it, but it could impact the speed at which this is reviewed. So the more interest, the more, quickly it could go through the peer review process, which would be fantastic. So, and of course, the more downloads and people who read this, the more the information that I present will get out and known. And this study could have a major impact on Canada going forward. I can't stress how important this is.
Let me go ahead and bring it up just so
Yeah.
I can kind of catch everybody up on what we're talking about here. So the title of it is Unreliable Evidence: Flawed Vaccinated versus Unvaccinated Comparisons in Canada's COVID-19 Vaccine Mandates, written by you, independent researcher in Ottawa. And I'll just quickly go through the abstract here, or at least the background portion. Canada's 2021-2022 COVID-19 vaccine mandates and passports were implemented with the stated aim of reducing transmission and hospital burden. In the absence of randomized controlled trial evidence for these endpoints, policymakers relied on vaccinated versus unvaccinated comparisons from surveillance data and observational studies, as well as ungrounded simulations, despite known methodologies limitations that rendered such evidence unreliable for public health policies with right implications. And I'll go through your method quickly here. We systematically critiqued Canada's public health surveillance reports and advisory briefs, Public Health Agency of Canada, Public Health Ontario, Ontario COVID-19 Science Advisory Table, together with related studies, identifying 7 key bias classifications by severity, critical and catastrophic, and correctability and scope. Distortions were quantified using published rate corrections, classification rules, time series data, and population trends. Can you kind of change that into English for the rest of us? What does that mean?
So basically, I went through public health surveillance reports, as well as advisory briefs from institutions like Ontario COVID-19 Science Table. And then I identified 7 key biases, and then I classified those biases based on their correctability, their scope, their magnitude. So the 7 biases fall into categories of either critical or catastrophic. And I quantified the distortions using published rate corrections. So there was corrections made within reports from the Public Health Ontario, for example, and we can go through some of those, but they corrected some of their statistics over the last few years. And you see the change in magnitude when those corrections are made. So I look at that. I look at classification rules. We all know about the 14-day window when it comes to, calling people unvaccinated within 14 days of their first jab. So I look at the distortions caused by that. And then I also look at time series data and population trends to give a context for the magnitude of these various biases.
Now, one of the words you just used there was correction. So since the data first was published, they've been updating and correcting that data, like basically retroactively correcting that data. What's causing them to do that? Is it new data or just it was bad to begin with? And is this part of the pressure you've been putting on with Fisman's fraud as well? Because people have been critiquing the data all along now.
Well, Fisman's fraud is separate, because as Fisman and his colleagues, when they did their transmission study, they didn't even use real world data at all. They just simulated it. They just made up the trends. So they didn't actually have to do anything with real world data, apparently. The corrections the biggest correction to me that really jumped out was the estimated number of unvaccinated individuals. So, for example, Public Health Ontario, beginning in around January of 2022, if you look at their reports, they do they do alert the reader that the unvaccinated population for rates for seniors, for unvaccinated seniors, they have that the rates are unstable because of the very small number of unvaccinated seniors. So when you look at rates, that's the denominator, right? How many unvaccinated seniors were unvaccinated? So if that number is too small, it will inflate hospitalizations, it will inflate infections. So they do make a note that they have that issue with their data, and they make that note throughout January, February, March, April, May, but they continue showing the graphs and they continue providing the estimates. So what ends up happening is time goes on, it becomes more and more inflated, those rates, because more and more seniors get vaccinated. There's the unvaccinated population gets smaller and smaller, and those rates just blow up. So in August of 2022, Public Health Ontario corrected their estimates for unvaccinated population, and they found about they estimated an extra 400,000 or so unvaccinated people, and about half of those were seniors. And when you make that correction, it has a massive impact on the rates, especially when you look at like hospitalization rates in the senior age group. So when I look at that, to give you an idea, when you look at the report from August 1st using the uncorrected data versus August 14th, when the data is corrected, the hospitalization rates for unvaccinated seniors changes by 80-fold, 80,
Oh, wow.
like 80. It's not subtle. And you look at the whole time period between, say, January and August, and those rates are off by 1 to 2 orders of magnitude. And remember that the unvaccinated seniors, the hospitalizations, that pretty much drove the narrative that that the unvaccinated were burdening the healthcare system, and they were, at a much higher risk. So this is not a little correction, and that's right in their reports. So if anybody goes to Public Health Ontario and looks at the reports, especially in August of 2022, you'll see that correction.
And that was the whole "you'll kill grandma" narrative. That's exactly
right.
what you're talking about here, right? That's the fear that they were putting into everybody.
Well, remember in 2022, in January, we had the issue were the vaccinated case rates were higher than the unvaccinated. So they had switched their narrative to look at hospitalizations because the whole infection transmission narrative was falling apart. So they were really stressing hospitalizations. So when you really underestimate the number of unvaccinated seniors, that is huge. And that really drives their narrative. The correction was made rather quietly in the summer of 2022, and there was no real mention of how that factored into, their mandates and their justification. It was just simply corrected and left right there in the public reports, but nobody's really said or did anything about it.
Now, at the time, media was using this information, putting it out there, but it's hard to say more importantly,
Yeah.
policymakers were using it as well to come up with the policies. And I do remember where they're saying things like the unvaccinated are taking up all the beds, just let them die. If somebody
Mhm.
comes in and they need to get a bed, but it's filled with all the unvaccinated who are sick, that's their choice, let them die. All of that stuff was happening at this time. Am I correct on the timeline on that?
Yeah, that whole narrative got much worse. Like I think I remember it starting more in the summer of 2021, and as we went into the fall of 2021, and then it continued into 22, and then there was a lot of emphasis on it in 22 because, like I mentioned, the transmission infection narrative was falling apart. So it was all about hospitalizations in 2022. So yeah, there was a huge marketing campaign about the risk of unvaccinated that they pose to the healthcare burden.
Let's bring up this headline from the Toronto Star. A lot of people will recognize this
Yeah.
one. August 26, 2021. If an unvaccinated person catches it from someone who is vaccinated, boo-hoo, too bad. I have no empathy left for the willfully unvaccinated. Let them die. I honestly don't care if they die from COVID, not even a little bit. Unvaccinated patients do not deserve an ICU bed. Remember these headlines?
So that was, I think, at the end of August of 2021. So that was
Yeah, August 26th.
Yeah. So while Trudeau was campaigning and blaming the unvaccinated for pretty much everything, for everything. They weren't just wrong for not getting, the vaccine. He was going on about, linking them to misogynist, racist, anti-science, anti-vaxxers. So we had that whole divisive rhetoric against the unvaccinated, and media did jump on board. During that particular time, I would say that the most the bias that really was significant would be the misclassification bias. That's that 14-day window. So you had unvaccinated, you had people who, after their first jab, were considered unvaccinated for the 2 weeks following that jab. So if you had any symptoms within that period, you would be added to the unvaccinated case counts and the unvaccinated hospitalizations. So as the vaccines rolled out in the spring of 2021, do you have a huge amount of misclassification bias that makes the unvaccinated group look worse? And then you were not considered fully vaccinated until 2 weeks after your second dose. So the second doses really weren't even put out until the summer of 2021. That's when people really ramped up their second doses. So you're not going to catch a lot of breakthrough cases because they're not considered breakthrough cases until 2 weeks after their second dose, and people were just getting into that sphere. So it's pretty ridiculous for that newspaper article to go out like that because misclassification was a huge thing. On top of that, you guys are in Alberta, and Alberta had huge issues when it came to their recording of ICU beds versus normal beds. So they were misclassifying the ICU beds in Alberta when saying that these beds were ICU, but they weren't, and that wasn't corrected, I think, until 2022, and that also had a very huge impact on the record.
So to just jump into this misclassification a little bit more so I can wrap my head around it. So somebody got the vaccine, got sick, ended up in the hospital, but it was within that 14-day period. They said there was unvaccinated who was taking up that bed, even though they received the vaccine. So anybody injured or having adverse reactions within the first 14 days were being misclassified. Is that what you're kind of talking about?
Well, it actually goes beyond 14 days because if the symptoms started within those 14 days, but you were even hospitalized after that, like say you were hospitalized 3 weeks later, but your symptoms began within that 14-day window, you would be misclassified as unvaccinated. And then also the hospitalizations included people who were there with COVID, not necessarily for COVID. So you also have like incidental hospitalizations in that number. So there's several things going on. Like there's a lot of biases that are built right into these metrics, and they just compound each other. So at different stages of the pandemic, the different biases become, they have their time in the sun. So in 2021, the big things were misclassification was huge, misattribution, recording errors, that type of thing.
Okay, then this data was used, as we saw with media, but policymakers was using this data to justify their decisions on things like you can't travel, you have to get a passport to go to a restaurant. All these other policy rights-based decisions were being made on this information. And now that we're learning, a lot of us knew at the time, okay, and we were all shut up and pushed away from the conversation. But now that we're learning that there was a lot of biases in there, this was done very wrong. Is there any accountability on the policymakers if they're basing it on bad data? And I noticed that you did say that there were some caveats and some disclaimers in there. Are they responsible for understanding that data better than maybe they were?
Okay, so I'll address two things. First, I probably should mention the size. We mentioned how misclassification bias was big in 2021, but it's important to look at just how big it is. So in my report, I do go in and look at Ontario data, and I use Ontario a lot in my report because they just kept, actually quite good records, and they archive their reports really well. And if you look at the period leading up until when the passports came in, so the passports in Ontario came in on September 22nd, 2021. So if you look at the time from the rollout of the vaccine to the time that the passports came in, and you look at post vaccinated cases, over 40% of those were misclassified as unvaccinated. So that's a huge number. And in those post-vaccinated cases, only about 17.5% were considered breakthrough cases. And so policymakers, they were relying on information like that. That's hugely problematic. That being said, you have to look at who the policymakers were and who brought in the mandates and the passports. So, for example, the travel restrictions, the federal vaccine mandates for public servants, that was a political decision. They were brought in by politicians. So Trudeau in his cabinet brought in the federal mandates and the travel restrictions, and then the premiers brought in the vaccine passports. Those are political. A lot of times they hide behind public health, and they say, "Oh, we're doing this." Public health is they allude to the fact that public health is basically recommending this. But when you look at the reports, the public health reports, it does not say that they recommend these vaccine mandates or passports. These reports are full of caveats saying what the limitations of the data are. And it really, the experts looking at those reports, if they're true experts, they should know that a lot of that information is unreliable. So really, there was a lot of misinterpretation going on about what the public health reports were saying and what so we have to be careful, because I think that there's just been a really big effort to hide behind public health authorities and say you're deferring to public health. But when I look at these reports, that's not what I see. I see a lot of data limitations. I see a lot of caveats. I see a lot of things where when I look at that, I can see there is huge reliability problems, huge. And those reliability problems were known at the time. This is not me looking at it after the fact. These things were reported at the time.
Okay, so this reminds me of when we got the Pfizer papers. And the Pfizer papers had disclaimers and caveats and warnings in them, but those were all ignored, stripped out, or just overlooked completely. So the problem that you found here is not necessarily public health information. It's the interpretation of that public health information and then passed down the line to other people. Is that what you just said there?
Well, it's the interpretation that's off. It's the misuse of the information. this from the beginning, you could see that the government's response was almost contrary to what the data showed should have been done. And they just, as we all know, they just were not open to that discussion. They did everything they could to shut that down. So censorship played a massive role, because the flaws that I point out in my paper are very basic. There's you can't miss them, and yet they pretty much went uncorrected, and I just that just is not possible without a massive amount of censorship, which is what we witnessed during the pandemic.
Well, we're definitely going to have to take another look at our expert class, especially when they start shutting down people who say things that's opposite to them. But go ahead, babe.
Yeah. So they have a comment here in our locals chat. I've worked in healthcare. I worked in healthcare during COVID. I was embarrassed of what we were doing because it was obvious this was not about health. We were not allowed to use nebulizers to get medications into a person's lungs that would have helped them. We intubated too quickly. We killed people because we were not allowed to use proven medical care. There's so much. We've have a few people who've worked in the medical system over the years and during COVID, and they've just been horrified of what they witnessed, what they had to do, and some have just flat out left because they just could not deal with the medical system anymore.
And people at this time, I do remember a lot of people saying, look at the data. This is what they say. They will make a little charts and bring it out and then get dismissed or be shut down, or even have their accounts closed on social media because it's going against the narrative. They're saying, actually, this is not good. It's not happening. It's not the unvaccinated. It's not the unvaccinated to worry about. It looks like the vaccinated are actually spreading, at the time where they say that it doesn't transmit. So the censorship level on this, as you highlighted there, was also a way to shut down opposing expert opinion, which, as it turns out, was correct.
Well, yeah, it certainly was. And a lot of the issues that I discuss in my paper with the misclassification, the small unvaccinated population estimates, the misattribution, all these things, a lot of these issues were pointed out throughout the pandemic by various experts. I go a few steps further in trying to, in basically giving context and, the relative magnitude of these biases. But it goes beyond that in that, well, I'll look, for example, when I started this with Fisman's fraud, I looked at the fraudulent modeling that had been used to scapegoat unvaccinated individuals. I brought it to the attention of the different institutions. There's a lot of back and forth. I showed a lot of proof. They refused to correct, and they continued to endorse the fraudulent research. I even went to the Ontario Provincial Police. They refused to investigate. And my stuff was even mentioned in the House of Commons. And an order paper question was put forth about the funding, because it was federally funded by the Canadian Institutes of CIHR, the Canadian Institutes of Health Research. And one of the questions asked was, did CIHR receive any negative feedback about this study after it was published? And they came back and said, no, we didn't. And I'm like, I wrote a book about it. My letters to them are in the book. They're published. And they come back and they say, oh, no, we didn't receive any negative feedback. It is absurd. Not only that after they got all this proof, they continued to fund those researchers, and they continued to fund like a follow-up transmission study where they doubled down on the false narrative that the unvaccinated are disproportionate risk. And Fisman and other of his colleagues even went on to do a bogus masking study with CIHR funds. So they just continued to fund these fabricated false studies. I thought at the time that if you absolutely prove the fraud, that they would have to correct, and I was wrong. Apparently that's not enough. And then in January, the Alberta report came out, and it basically said that, the government really did not have the evidence needed for any of these pandemic measures, from masking to lockdowns to the huge, the vaccine passports. And of course, it was met with, opposition. And the main thing was that they tried to pass it off, I guess, as fringe and against the consensus view. And then, of course, they point to the large body of evidence that supports the vaccination campaign and these measures. And so it became very, very clear that you have to address that large body of evidence. You have to basically show that none of that evidence justifies the vaccines. None of it is useful in that regard, because they all fundamentally have biases and flaws that render them unreliable for comparing the vaccinated to the unvaccinated and saying it's because of the vaccine. So what I did in my paper is I systematically looked at the different biases and show that observational studies, they all have these, one or more of these catastrophic or critical biases that that render them, unreliable for justifying mandates. So it's a systematic look, and all observational studies have, some of these bias, at least one of these biases, and our surveillance data in Canada is just riddled with biases that compound each other. And these biases are not small. They drove the result. All right. So they like to say, well, we know things weren't perfect. Well, not perfect. They were heavily flawed. That's far from not perfect. And the biases, the built-in biases, they all go in one direction to inflate unvaccinated rates and make the vaccine, appear more effective than it was.
Yeah.
So we're going through the transparency stage now because you're taking a closer look. What will the accountability stage look like if we get there? Like, are there people, organizations? Are they able to point fingers enough that no one person's responsible? Like,
Can anyone be sued?
What do you
That's a
think the
question.
accountability stage may look like as you're exposing this?
Well, I think that's where we have to be careful, because let's face it, there's a lot of blame to go around. But if you want to blame everybody, then nobody gets held to account.
Right.
Right? So when I look at this, I was able to put this paper together using public health reports that are open. They're official, they're public, anybody can view them. I'm looking at public surveillance data. So that means that, as an expert, you can go in there and see the flaws. You can go in there and see where what the limitations were and what you can and cannot say with the data available. So that that information was available. Now you look at the experts and you say, okay, well, did the experts do their job and interpret the data properly? And did they expose the limitations, or did they cover them up? And then you look at those making the policy and bringing in the mandates. Did they have the evidence to justify what they did? And remember, when it comes to rights and rights violations, the onus is on the government who is imposing the restrictions to make sure that our rights weren't violated. So when you look at the mandates and the travel restrictions, they were brought in by Trudeau and his cabinet. So that responsibility falls to them to ensure that our rights were not violated. So yeah, you just have to look at what everybody's roles were. And then, of course, when I look at this, I see three main pillars of this whole pandemic response. And those three were, follow the science, which is basically a statistical game of manipulation from my vantage point. That's what I see. Then we had the communication strategy, which is, the censorship and the behavioral science nudging. And then we had the courts, when the courts kept saying that, they were using things like judicial notice and deferring to public health. You have to look at those three things and see how they were used. And when you get to the courts, it's very interesting because while they're saying they were deferring to, public health officials and public health, I'm looking at the reports and it's clear to me that, well, no, the public health, there was a lot of caveats in there, and they were actually deferring to politicians. They were deferring to politicians. It sounds nicer to say we're deferring to public health, and then people think, oh yes, we're concerned about our health. That makes sense, but the data shows something else. It actually shows that a lot of the things that were done were contrary to what the data said, and basically that puts our public health at risk, greater risk. So, I mean, there's so much to dissect, but
Well, I'm glad you're trying. I'm glad you're trying. And consensus, science by consensus, is flawed. It's not how science is supposed to be done. Just because it's popular or many people saying it doesn't make it so. So we saw this on the COVID issue. We see this in the climate issue. We even see this in the medical necessity for the trans issue. It's consensus science. It's not real science. Where they're saying, mountain of evidence and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. And then nobody goes through it. And if anybody does go through it, they're called, well, you just don't know what you're talking about. The other 1,000 doctors, the other 1,000 scientists, the other 1,000 experts are more correct than you are, because it's a popularity contest. And this is how people are kind of navigating this.
Well, it's not just popularity. It depends on who holds the power, right? So it looked like, there is consensus. Well, you only let one side speak. So it looks like there's consensus. Was there actually consensus? I don't know. Only the one side was allowed to speak. There was certainly a lot of experts and a lot of doctors and a lot who tried to speak out, against a lot of what the government was doing. You had the Great Barrington Declaration. When did that come out? That came out fairly early, and you have like thousands of scientists saying, hey, we don't agree. To say, there is a consensus view, how would that even be possible in the beginning of the pandemic to have a consensus view? I mean, how would you have gathered this consensus view? On the one hand, they were saying this is a novel virus and we're not sure of anything, yet there's a consensus view. Did they even do a survey? Did they ask the scientists? They just basically said there's a consensus view, only allowed one side to speak, and we all assumed that was true, that was the consensus. It certainly seemed to be the consensus view amongst those in power who are allowed to speak. But I know a lot of scientists who didn't agree, a lot of scientists who didn't agree with what was going on. And, even scientists that work for the government, when they didn't agree, guess what? They got put on leave without pay too. So.
Yep, there was definitely the scrubbing. So yeah, you get consensus by shutting down mics of others that are opposing,
removing licenses.
And just like you highlighted there, did you receive any complaints or any counter information or pushback on these reports? No, we didn't, except this mountain from Regina. Exactly that. They're just excluding the other part of the conversation, and then they go ahead and say, "We all agree." No, you don't. We know you don't. But as soon as you step up, your license is attacked. Media comes at you and paints you like a goblin, like they did with Dr. Speaker. It's just pretty crazy what they're doing out there. Last question, and we're going to run to our private side, and I hope you can stick around for a little bit longer. But the last question is, how do we get out of this now? So going forward, can we trust the experts? Do we follow the science? Who can we listen to? Do Canadians need to become statisticians and go through these reports themselves and read the caveats and read the disclaimers? Like, what is the next step forward?
Well, I think definitely we have to have accountability, and definitely we have to have corrections made. So this is where the report can be very, very strong that way, because when you are able to look at the follow the science and dismantle the evidence, I think the narrative has a real chance of really not just falling apart, but I just don't know how it can stand. I really think that this is the way forward. This report can put an end to the nonsense. It needs to be taken up in a massive way. I think this is the way to bring about accountability. I really do. And that is why I have actually been reaching out to lawyers to make them aware of this information. And what I present, I mean, some may consider it controversial, but nothing in the report is controversial in that it's 100% reliant on what's in public health reports. Every single thing I say is verifiable, and everything I show, it's simple to understand, and it's, you know, it's statistical kindergarten. These are things that experts would have to know. You cannot know, you know, you cannot say you didn't know this and then call yourself an expert. That's just absurd. So it becomes, I think it becomes a real problem for the establishment to continue if given the findings in this report. So the main problem I'm facing is just exposure. I need there to be exposure. And with my work in general, I have not really received a lot of pushback in anything that I've ever said, not with the FSMA stuff and not with this so far. The main issue has always been censorship. With my book, mainstream media would not pick that up, and Amazon had I was on the do not promote list. And that really does, you know, stop this from being taken up in a much bigger way. For this preprint, it will be fantastic. If it is shown in a peer-reviewed journal, that could really help. And the more people that download this preprint, the more people will know about the evidence. And like I said, whether or not it gets into a journal, and you know, I have submitted it. The more people that even know about the preprint can really help, because everything in the preprint is verifiable, and so even that is useful. I think can be useful in court.
Fantastic.
So share it out, everyone.
Yeah, I'd like to see you involved in court cases where you can help reveal this to the court. This is a great Watteel reveal, so hopefully people all over the place are going to take this up. And you did Ontario's data and some health, some public information in Canada, so hopefully other places are going to pick this up as well and look at their data.
Right. So when I look at the biases, you know, that 14-day window, that wasn't just Ontario. You're looking at all of Canada, and in some places the window was greater than 14 days, right? So that misclassification bias, you know, that, for example, that's pretty much in all jurisdictions. I use Ontario as an example because I can put a number to it, because they publish reports where I can say, hey, look, during this period of time, where we are leading up to the passports, the misclassification was like over 40% of the post-vaccinated cases were misclassified. So I can give a number to it. So Ontario is very good because I can give context and show the relative magnitude of these biases, right? You look at the underestimated population size, that again is Canada-wide. And Public Health Agency of Canada even said, oh, when we look at this is fun, Jason, to get the number of unvaccinated individuals, they basically take the total population based on outdated census data, and they subtract the number of individuals who had at least one dose. All right. The problem is that when they do that in certain regions and in certain times, that number is negative. They get a negative number of unvaccinated people. So in those places, Public Health Ontario, a Public Health Agency of Canada said, well, we're just going to set the number of unvaccinated people to 0 in those regions. Well, obviously they know that is an underestimate. Okay, they say it right in their report. So Public Health Agency of Canada is saying that. Public Health Ontario talks about how their numbers were unstable. So it's not just one province. This is, you know, Canada-wide. And then selection bias, that's, you know, everywhere. That's global. You know, so yeah, I don't make the mistake of thinking this is just in Ontario. It's just Ontario actually kept pretty good records. So I'm actually thankful to Public Health Ontario for having these reports out. And I had actually sought permission from Public Health Ontario to use their graphs and their charts in my my report.
Yeah, my comment was kind of the inverse of that. The reverse of that was you focused on Ontario and Canada. Hopefully others will focus everywhere else as well and kind of use your methodology and go through and find out if the same thing happened to them, where they
that'd be great.
misclassified as well. Yeah, because you can actually become the template for all over the place for them to take another look at this. You're like the canary in the coal mine.
Yeah,
and they're like, oh, look, actually, let's take a closer look at these misclassifications like she did. And oh, boom, the data's been there all along. And holy smoke, she's correct globally. Hopefully,
I see. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks, Jason. I'm hoping. Yeah, this is a very systematic look at things. The methodology is, reproducible. I discuss, the way I've classified and how I got my numbers. So yeah, that would be fantastic if people did this in their jurisdiction as well. I'm hoping they do.
Yeah, let's have this transmit globally and spread. And there is no vaccine to stop this other than censorship. So hopefully more people will take a look at this. Can you hang out for another 10 minutes or so?
Sure.
Okay, yeah. So we're going to say goodbye to our public and we're going to come back to our private section with you in a second. Thank you very much, Watteel, or Regina. The great Watteel reveal. There.
That's a good one.
Make that spread, everybody. Make that spread, okay, and get that out there. This is the template on how to find some of this fraud, misclassification, a lot of policies, media, experts, in the quotes, was using this. And as she said, this is elementary statistics. You should have been able to figure this out.
Yeah.
And if you didn't, maybe you're willfully blind or wanted to change that narrative.
Yeah, and the experts someone put in our locals chat. Who are these experts? Who calls them experts? What makes them experts? Yes, who are
we
these
know,
experts?
we know. We've been doing this show for a few years now. We know that expert is just a term. It's not a certification in any way, shape, or form. Anybody can be called an expert, especially by the media. We saw this with the ostriches. We saw this with a lot of issues. You just bring an expert on. These birds have to die because I said so. No evidence, no testing, just because I said so. So the big reveal here by Watteel.
Yeah, sorry, my mouse nearly froze.
Mouse is frozen.
Yeah, so
all right, I have to work on heat for her mouse now. Okay, folks.
But everyone, thanks for being in the chats again. There's great conversations going on. And just as a remember, the chats that you see on the main screen are from all of our platforms, excluding our locals, because locals, we have our own chat that we keep private. But the chat you'll see on the screen will be from Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, X, and Twitch. For those who want to know. So that's where you see it. So sometimes if you don't see all the chats, it could be because it's from all the chats and not in the chat within your chat platform.
I also think there was some YouTube censorship going on.
Yeah,
in the chat,
I would not be surprised, but nevertheless.
All right, folks, and don't forget to subscribe and share this out. Click the little bell, be notified. We do a show every morning. We're both pushing buttons. We've got a bunch of mouse frozen. And make sure that you share this out because it's important, and also become a member. That's how you get to that private chat that we just talked about.
Yep.
And have some deep conversations, and we're going to go hang out with them right now. So if you want to be part of that, go ahead.
Oh my goodness, I'll try and click that again.
Yeah, Paula's having some clicking problem. Maybe her mouse is frozen. Does it pop up again? I got it.
You got it.
I got you covered. I got you covered. All right, so folks, we're going to go hang out with our locals right now. So thanks for being here. This is a very important episode. Share it out.
Yep.
And make sure you leave some comments. And thank you very much, Regina. Again.
Yeah, everyone have a fantastic day. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Bye.
We love you all very much, and God bless.